Yo, what is up, guys? Will and Canyon here from Fantasy Flock, bringing you kind of our must draft players. We've got three different groups of players. These are guys that we're targeting in drafts for the upcoming NBA fantasy season. We'll talk about both from points and category perspective, but honestly, like a lot of these guys in both of those specifically. So the three categories, we've got early targets, so guys in the early rounds that we're looking at and potentially reaching for a little bit because we like them enough. We've got some mid-round values, so guys later in the draft a little bit that we're targeting, and then late sleepers that you can get with some later picks. So kicking it off, first off is our early target. We've got Lamelo Ball. Now he's a guy I know is a popular, extra breakout candidate, kind of already broke out a little bit, but man, the end of last season, and even all through last season, was scoring at an elite rate. The last 20 games last season, 22 points, 8.4 assists, and 6 boards. He's getting more aggressive offensively, and honestly, with no Bridges potentially, this is LaMelo's team, and I expect him to even improve off of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love LaMelo in this lineup. Obviously, there's some changes to this team. They bring in Mark Williams, which actually could help LaMelo a lot as a rim runner. We all know that LaMelo can stuff the stat sheet as far as rebounds, points, and assists goes. He's going to score a lot. He's going to pass a lot. He's going to rebound really well for a guard. And defensively, he's got a little bit of upside as well, not to forget about. But, just if anything on this team, he can get even more usage with Bridges being gone, rookies coming in, and him just having to take this team and put it on his back. So LaMelo's going, near the end of the first round, maybe early second. But he's probably going to be one of the best point guards in fantasy drafts, specifically for fantasy points format. Next up, though, in these early targets round, we've got Tyrese Halbern, another guard that we love a lot. I'm super high on Halliburton. He's going to be one of those classic, 20 and 10 guards. He's got great potential to be a high assist, high points guy. Another young guy where this is his team again. On a young Pacers team, they draft Ben Mathurin out of Arizona. So they have a good amount of guards there, but it's clearly Halliburton at the helm, being the facilitator and also being the scorer. He's able to drive the basket, shoot the three-point ball really well. It's been 40% or more in his first 3 seasons from 3 in the NBA. So he's a legitimate candidate to lead the league in assists again, and even more upside without Brogdon there. So he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be looking out for 20 and 10 for sure on this team.
Yeah, obviously last season, we saw an increase in the splits, with the Pacers versus the Kings and without Brogdon as well in the lineup. So obviously no Brogdon there. Expect the offense to kind of run through Halliburton. This is a team that passes a lot, and we like obviously the assist upside. I think he could lead the league in assists. I mean, I know it's kind of feels crazy to say with guys like Harden and Trey Young, but man, I mean, he was up there. I feel like he's almost a lock to be kind of top 5, top 6 with what he did with the Pacers last season. And yeah, shot the ball super well from 3, and I think he could even shoot more this upcoming season. Would not surprise me as he gets more ingrained in that starting lineup for the Pacers. Next up, we've got an early target here, Kade Cunningham. We're Pistons guys. I'll get that out of the way. Obviously, maybe a little biased, but man, Kade was amazing last season. He looked like the rookie of the year, especially the second half of the year, which is kind of what we want to look for, right? You talk about the second year breakouts for players, rookies, second half of the year. Obviously, it's hard for rookies to have really good starts. Man, Kade was really strong. Last 20 games, 21.1 points, 6.5 assists, and 5.7 rebounds. Really think he could repeat that, if not improve upon it. Add Jaden Ivey in the draft, you lose Jeremy Grant. And obviously last season we saw as well, Kade really good without Jeremy Grant in the lineup. Obviously Grant, a guy that takes a ton of shots. And the offense is just going to run through Kade. I know people talk about Ivy coming in as a guard being pretty ball dominant, but Ivy was working off ball in the summer league, and I think that's what the Pistons want to do with him offensively. You bring in Bogdanovich as well in that trade that just happened recently. More of a shooter, and honestly, Kade can play really well with that. I like that for the Pistons overall, and Kade is just one of those guys that he's going to give you mini Luka numbers, with decent scoring, consistent, solid assists, and really good rebounding for a guard.
Yeah, this is a super young Pistons team, and even though they got a vet like Bogdanovich now, they've got Burks off the bench. Kade Cunningham feels like the vet all of a sudden on this team. He's just so good, so young already. He's going to dictate the pace And like you said, they're going to want Ivy to facilitate a little bit more, but he's going to start playing off ball. They're going to have to ease him into the NBA. And Cunningham's still going to be super ball dominant. He's going to get a lot of chances to distribute the ball and score the ball. Like I said, he's second-year player, and he already feels like a veteran. He's just so savvy. He knows the game so well, so mature as well for his position and his age. So look for Kade to get another jump here and just to keep climbing. He was, like you said, eye test. He was Rookie of the Year. He didn't actually win it. But, man, he put up insane numbers on a young team. So he's going to be a very exciting player, and this team very exciting to watch. So enough bias aside, we'll go to the next one here. We've got Damonta Sabonis, last early target here on the list. I love Sabonis here on the Kings. Since he was traded there, he's averaged 19 points, 12.3 rebounds, 5.8 assists. He's kind of like a Jokic Jr. I mean, he scores really well. He rebounds insanely well. And then he passes and has very good assist upside for a center. So he can do it all offensively at a very high level. He should see a lot of usage, as the clear number one guy on this front court. Super primary option offensively for this team that wants to win now. They bring in Keegan Murray, but Murray will stretch the floor a bit more alongside Sabonis. I think they'll still use Sabonis in a very specific way down low. Not the greatest defensive stat big, but when he produces so efficiently in all the other categories, it's really not going to matter. He's going to give you a lot of points, a lot of rebounds, a lot of assists, and in a points format, that's going to add up really well. And even in a category format, it's going to be very solid to have a center that can assist at this clip. In either the points or the category format. Sabonis is one of those bigs that's just very rare, very elite. So if he's going second round, if he slips to the top of the third round, I think Sabonis is great value and should be an early target.
Definitely. Yeah. And we talk about Murray being one of the most pro-ready rookies, the Kings being kind of that win-now team. But hard to imagine a rookie comes in, even as Keegan Murray and takes a ton from Sabonis offensively. So still expect him to put up solid scoring numbers. Next up, we're in a new category now. We're looking at some mid-round values, and this is a guy who's definitely going to move up draft boards with the recent trade. But Colin Sexton, in the trade to the Jazz, obviously no Donovan Mitchell there. They trade Bogdanovich. I would not be surprised if even more veterans are on the move before the season or even early in the season before the trade deadline. This Utah team looks like they're blowing it up and trying to build around Abaji and Sexton, bringing in those guys and Markkanen as well. But, man, he just really feels like he's stepping into this kind of usage opportunity. Obviously, no Donovan Mitchell there. You've got some vets there. You've got Conley there, Clarkson as well. But, man, I mean, Sexton could just immediately be just a monster scorer for this team and, potentially give you more assists than he's shown, as a guard. We're only 1 year removed from him averaging 24.3 points, 4.4 assists and 3.1 rebounds. I really feel like he could immediately put up those similar numbers, and I feel like the upside just exists with a player of his talent in this opportunity and situation. So I'm pretty excited about Sexton. And, if he's going in drafts where it's looking like the ADP is going right now, I think he's a really, really strong value. But like I said, I expect that to, move up a little bit with, this situation versus where he was with the Cavs.
Yeah, he should definitely move up. But I mean, when Mitchell left Utah and other guys leave Utah, they had a big gap for scoring. They needed scoring. They bring in Sexton, who's a scoring guard. He's very good defensively as well, but he is a scoring guard. He's a number 2, and that's exactly what he can come in and do and fill in this role. And Conley being there, maybe he's the vet that helps out, maybe distributes as well. But they need scoring, and Sexton is just the perfect match for that. So he can easily be over 20 points per game. And like you said, he'll have to fill in some distributive roles as well, even though being along Conley, you got guys in there like Markkanen. If he shares time on the court with Clarkson, he's got some decent options alongside him on this really, restructured young team. But he'll definitely be a 20 or more points per game guy with some assist upside and good defensive upside as well. Next up here, though, in the mid-round values, last one here, we've just got 2. It's Yakapurdle. Obviously, no DeJounte Murray. And last season, when DeJounte Murray was not in, Pirtle averaged 14.4 points, 9.9 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and some good defensive upside as well. So he should see closer to 28-plus minutes without Murray on a consistent basis next season, as well as there's just a lack of front court competition on this team. Zach Collins is back and healthy, but they like Pirtle a lot in San Antonio. He's a double-double monster. And with 3.3 assists, that's not something to forget about as a center. Again, the center position can be very valuable, especially late when you get a big like this that can score. obviously get rebounds, a little bit of assist upside with some defensive upside. That's the full package, and Pirtle can give you all of that at a pretty high floor. And in the mid-round value, that's just such good value for a guy like that. So he can fill the stat sheet, and at this scarce position in the mid-round, I think he's a steal. He's going to be probably a 15-10, 15-11 guy with 3 to 4 assists and some defensive upside. So he's going to fill the stat sheet. Again, a guy that's going to be really good fantasy points-wise, but also pretty good category-wise as well. So if he's going around the mid-rounds here, I think you just should definitely target him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Spurs are an interesting team. You know, we're gonna head into the late sleeper category here, and my late sleeper is Trey Jones, also from the Spurs. They're just another one of those teams where, you know, you remove Murray from the equation, and the Spurs kind of seem like this team that's just gonna be young. They're kind of blowing it up a little bit, obviously moving one of your stars in Murray. And it was funny, Popovich, I'm sure you guys have seen the interview where he said nobody should go to Vegas and place any bets on the Spurs to win the championship. He talked about they're just trying to, you know, build up the guys and try to give them long, successful careers in the NBA. His focus is on developing the young guys, and Trey Jones is one of those guys who I think is going to see, you know, starter minutes. And we got to see in games without Murray where Trey Jones played 30-plus minutes. He averaged 14.4 points, 5 rebounds, and 7.9 assists. And I think he is just a really strong guard who can give you really, really high upside in the assist department pretty late in drafts. So you talk about a category league, and even in points formats, you know, that's pretty strong value for a guy that's going as late as it looks like he's going. You know, you got Primo, you know, backing up as well. He's another young guy, obviously drafted recently. But if you just look at the Spurs roster, it's hard to argue that Trey Jones isn't going to just see those starter minutes. You know, projected to start, I anticipate him playing the 30-plus minutes that he put up those numbers and I just talked about. And those averages, I told you, if you look at those averages I talked about in those starters minutes, last season in points formats, it would have been better than Kuzma, Nurkic, Cade, and Terry Rozier from a points per game perspective, which is pretty crazy. You know, I think Trey Jones is not one of those guys who people are excited about from a fantasy perspective. But, man, you remove Murray from the equation, it's really hard to believe that Trey doesn't return value on where he's going in drafts.
Yeah, both Jones brothers are very true point guards, right? Even as backups, they were very efficient. They came in, they knew the role, they got it done. They didn't score a ton, but they were very efficient as far as scoring goes and assist goes. And like you said, Primo's behind him, but the Spurs don't really have a true point guard like Trey Jones. Primo's not a very true point guard. He's more of a scoring guard, probably. I mean, he's still got time to develop. He's very young. But Trey Jones just seems like such a good, solid, safe, true point guard for Popovich to put out there and really lead this team on the court. So, yeah, love Trey Jones here as a late sleeper. Second and last late sleeper here is Jalen Smith for the Pacers as well. In his 22 games with the Pacers last season, he averaged 13.4 points, 7.6 rebounds, and a block per game. Now he's looking to be a consistent starter and have probably a much more improved role with this young squad. He could be a steal later in these drafts, and he can stretch the floor as a big. Good defense. He's athletic. Obviously, he can rebound the ball, so he can kind of do it all. And a guy that goes this late, again, at the center position that can be very scarce in drafts, he should be a steal. So I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks out this season, kind of overtakes that Miles Turner role and becomes the new young center or power forward face of this Indiana team. Easily can be a 15-10 guy with 1 to 2 defensive stats a night. If he gets even more minutes, he can do even better. But they're plugging him into this power forward role. He comes over from Phoenix. He was efficient in 22 games already with them, and he's just going to have another year learning with this team, being with these other young guys and getting better. So expect a Jalen Smith breakout, small, semi-little breakout, because he is going late, and he is probably the third, fourth scoring option on this team. But, man, he just does a lot of things right. He's a hard worker. He's athletic. Again, he can stretch the floor. So I think he's a good high points guy, high rebounds, and solid defensive guy. Also not very big on Turner, so that helps as well. But I think Jalen Smith here is it's his time to shine for this young roster.
Yeah, definitely like Jalen Smith a lot. And, you know, I know this Pacers team looks a lot different than last season, obviously bringing in Mathurin and, you know, you trade away Brogdon. But, you know, they were a team that, you know, was one of the pass heaviest, moved the ball a ton last season in the NBA. And especially when you're playing with a guy like Halbert, I think Smith will have a decent amount of opportunity, you know, for scoring. And obviously, you know, all the things you had mentioned for him. Definitely has a lot of opportunity, especially with where he's going in drafts, right? These are kind of late sleeper guys who I think are really worth the pick, just kind of looking at the potential opportunity they could have. Let us know if you guys think we missed anybody, you know, if you got any mid-round values, late sleepers, or early round targets you guys are targeting in your drafts for the upcoming fantasy season. We'll see you in the next one.